Welcome back to the channel, and what a busy weekend of racing it was. I mean, I can't go through every series that was racing this weekend because it was a bit too much. So if you're fans of GT Open or IMSA, I'm afraid this isn't your week. What I will be talking about though is the Formula 1 from Imola, the Formula Renault Eurocup from Imola, the Formula Regional European Championship and Euroformula Open, both at Barcelona, and the season finale of the European Le Mans series at Portimao. So let's get started. Formula 1. So the F1 news before the weekend hit its stride was the announcement of Alfa Romeo and Williams that they'd be retaining their current driver lineups, which led in equal measure to upset on Twitter with Alfa and joy at the fact that George Russell will be retaining his seat for next year. This looks likely to leave Perez either hoping for a Red Bull seat or looking for a new series to race in next year. It's also likely to leave Callum Ilott following in Raffaele Marcello's footsteps and looking at a GT drive, although nothing's confirmed one way or another on that one at the moment. In qualifying, it was the usual suspects fell in the top three places, with the two Mercs and Verstappen also being the only people to make it through Q2 on the medium tyre. With the two-day weekend and less practice time, there was a bit more uncertainty regarding tyre life, which would show later in the race. After several track limit issues, mostly for Alex Albon and Sebastian Vettel, when you're struggling, it never rains it pours, it was Valtteri on pole ahead of Lewis and Max with a super performance from Pierre Gasly in fourth. So, into the race. Off the start, Valtteri got away well, Max getting the jump on Lewis, Seb and Kevin Magnussen collided, with Kevin getting spun and Seb losing part of his front wing, which he ended up going the whole race with for reasons that kind of haven't been properly explained yet. Lance Stroll also ended up in the pits, having damaged his front wing in a collision with Esteban Ocon. Disaster happened on lap 9 for Gasly as he had to retire the car from a strong position with a coolant leak, and lap 11 saw the pit stop sequences starting, and lack of practice saw people coming out on mediums and hards as teams seemed kind of unsure about which way to go. Coming out of the pits, Charles attacked Daniel Ricciardo and locked up slightly on his new tyres, but seemed to get away without damaging them. Whilst behind them, Albon and Kvyat had a slight coming together, but got away without any damage as well, luckily for them. Verstappen pitted with Bottas coming in the next lap to cover him off, but Lewis went long on his tyres. Mercedes splitting strategy to make sure one of them got the win. Bottas was carrying damage, unfortunately, which he'd picked up from part of Sebastian Vettel's wing on lap 2, and it kind of kept Max bottled up behind, and he was losing time and getting frustrated. And so they were both losing time to Lewis at this point. On lap 30, Esteban Ocon's car called it quits and a virtual safety car was called, giving Lewis the opportunity to pit while Valtteri and Max had to slow down. Coming out of the pits, he had a 4.2 second lead over Valtteri, who couldn't quite manage the pace that Lewis was able to run with the damage he'd got to his car. Now, while not stopping, Seb and Kimi had pulled themselves right up the order, but it all kind of went wrong for Sebastian in the pits, with issues on not one but two different tyres, resulting in him losing 13 seconds in the pits, dropping him well out of the points, down to 13th, I think, battling with Giovinazzi. On lap 43, Bottas had gone wide and Max took his chance getting him in the end of the main straight, but a big crash as his rear tyre failed took him out of the race and resulted in the safety car coming out. Perez on mediums had run longer than the soft-shod cars in front and jumped them in the pits. But behind the safety car he came into the pits from third, along in fairness with Kvyat and Sainz. Keeping heat in the tyres was proving to be an issue as Russell crashed trying to warm his tyres and Stroll couldn't get the car to stop coming into the pits and knocked his front jackman over. When the safety car came in, Albon, who hadn't stopped, was jumped on his older, colder tyres by both Kvyat and Perez, going 3 wide down the main straight. Kvyat then managed to drive round the Charles Leclerc while his old hard tyres struggled to come up to temperature. Behind them, Albon, defending on cold tyres, lost the back end, ending up sideways across the track, and it was only great avoiding action from Sainz that prevented a big accident. Leclerc during this didn't have time to breathe as Perez on his new tyres clambered all over the back of him. Defending for his life, he managed to hang on long enough for his tyres to switch on again, and Perez lost his opportunity. In the 6 laps between the safety car coming in and the checkered flag, Lewis managed to build a 13-second gap to Daniel Ricciardo in third as the 1-2 for Mercedes secured them their 7th Constructors' title in a row, setting a new record. Ricciardo's second podium of the year brought about the shoey that people have been missing from his first podium, and even Lewis took part, which, judging from the look on his face, he possibly won't be doing again. Also racing at Imola that weekend was the Formula Renault Eurocup, And before the racing even started, it was announced that as of next year, the series would be combining with its rival Formula Regional European Championship to form the rather wordy Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine. The series running with the same Tautas chassis as they both currently do, but with Alpine, or Renault as we have currently call them, engines. And a sizable chunk of super license points going for it for winning. Momentum over the previous 2 rounds had swung towards Victor Martins, who came into the round with a lead of over 20 points from nearest rival Kaya Colette, who needed a strong race performance to keep the pressure on. In race 1, he got it. Starting third, he got Alex Quinn for second off the line and took the lead from Lorenzo Colombo when he locked up going into turn 2. No sooner had he got the lead though, and the safety car was called because of a free car collision further down the field. Almost as soon as the safety car went in, it come out again as Gregor Sorsi added his name to Paul Aron and David Vidales in retirement. Colette again led away convincingly, although a brief lock-up looked like Colombo might have the chance to get a run on him, but good defending from Colette kept him in the lead. A mistake from Colombo then let Quinn through into second place. Martins back in fifth was struggling to make any headway against Colapinto, and it would stay that way to the line. Colette taking a much needed victory from Quinn and Colombo, therefore closing to within 8 points of Martins and the head of the championship. Race 2 on Sunday looked tasty. Martins was on pole from Colette in second and Colapinto third. Martins and Colette both got great starts and were battling hard around the first half of the lap. But back in fourth, David Vidales missed his braking point, losing his front wing on the back of Colapinto and colliding with the back of Colette, taking him out of the race. After the safety car came back in, Martins got away well, setting fastest laps to keep Colapinto at arm's reach. And further down the field, a multiple car battle involving Aron, Colombo, De Guerres and Alatalo was going on for 8th, and Quinn and De Wilde were also fighting hard for 4th, with Quinn eventually winning the battle with 4.5 minutes left of the race. In the final minute of the race, David Vidales, who had been into the pits for a new nose cone, retired with suspension damage, and Martins won the race from Colapinto with Hadrian David in third, 9 seconds behind. With Colette's DNF, the gap in the championship had gone up to 33 points, with Franco Colapinto now replacing David Vidales for third. With 4 races remaining, Renault Junior Caio is still in with a shot, but having lost the championship at the final round last year, ex-Renault Junior Victor isn't likely to let it escape him a second time. Off to Euroformula Open, and that was a busy weekend in Barcelona. With the final round cancelled, it was trying to fit 4 races into one weekend, bearing in mind there were other series racing as well. So while Lucas Dunne was still mathematically in with a chance, Yiffy Yi had one hand very much on the championship. And the pair of them shared the front row for race 1 with Yiffy on pole. Defending hard off the line, that was kind of as close as Dunne would get. A collision between the Esner brothers behind caused some shuffling of the pack further down the field, but by lap 3 Yiffy had pulled out a 2.1 second lead. Foster and Daz would provide the main entertainment in the race, swapping and re-swapping positions, but at the line it was Yiffy Yi 4.9 seconds ahead of Dunne, with third place Nicholas Cruton a further 16 seconds back. Race 2 kind of looked like more of the same, with Yi on pole this time from Cameron Das and Dunne in third. Yi defended well from Das, but a poor start from Dunne put him back in 5th. Andres Esner and Manuel Maldonado in 3rd and 4th battling for position made it even harder for him to pass. Esner eventually got a gap to Maldonado, but Dunne still couldn't get past him, and that was kind of how it stayed. He confirmed the championship for Yi as he went across the line by 5.6 seconds from Das, with Esner a further 8.2 back. And having won the championship, Yi showed no signs of slowing down and was on pole for the 3rd race. At the start, Sebastian Esner got off to a flyer and was alongside Yi going through turn 1. Unfortunately, Yi made his only real mistake of the weekend and collided with Esner having to go through the gravel and falling down the order. As a result, Louis Foster found himself in second and in with a good shout at the win as Yi got given a 5-second penalty for the collision. A mistake from Dunne let Das get a run on him for 3rd, while Yi set about building the gap to Foster. With 2 laps left, he got his gap. Foster came home 2nd and Das rounded out the podium. Yiffy had gone to claim pole in the 4th race as well, from Manuel Maldonado, Dunne and Andreas Esner. And he got away well, but behind the leading pack, Glenn Benverlo and Alexander Bardignon had an incident that left the pair of them in the turn 2 gravel trap and required the safety car to be called out. Dunne had also gone off through the runoff on the other side of the track and had dropped to 8th off the start, having probably his worst weekend of the season. Zay Maloney got the jump on Cameron Das when he got loose trying to get Sebastian Esner for 4th. Louis Foster went from hero in race 3 to zero in race 4 when he had a turn 10 collision with new boy Villagomez, effectively taking them both out of the race. And the race kind of settled down after that, with Yi leading from Maldonado and then the Esner brothers, and Dunner still stuck in 8th. With 4 laps to go, Cruton ran wide and Dunner finally got the run on him. But Yi took victory by 9 seconds. Andreas Esner took 3rd in the race, which secured 3rd in the championship. But there was no stopping the ex-Renault Junior FEE, who eventually won the title with 4 wins and 4 poles in one weekend, extending his points advantage to a tidy 146 points. Also racing in Barcelona was Formula Regional European Championship, and thankfully for the Ferrari Academy drivers, there was no ex-Renault Juniors to cause them title troubles. Still, Prema for some reason weren't looking like the dominant force they usually were. The previous race week, someone else had even won, and this time it was Van Amersfoort Racing's attempt to knock them off their pedestal, and they brought in help in the form of Petkov and Leclerc's former nemesis Dennis Hauger, who put his car second on the grid in his first race in the series behind teammate Pierre-Louis Chauvet. And that was as good as it got in race 1 for Chauvet, as he stalled on the line and found himself in last place by a clear 5 seconds. And he'd spent the next several laps reeling in the back of the pack at 3 seconds a lap, showing the pace he'd managed to get pole with. Hauger, distracted by his teammates' adventures, had ended up in 3rd behind Rasmussen and Leclerc. Further back, Nannini, on his return to the series, had been having a solid drive until he outbraked himself defending from Lapalainen, losing a total of 3 places before he managed to get himself sorted out again. At the front, it finished in the same order, and a charging Chauvet managed to get back up to 7th. Petkov in 5th hoped for better in the remaining 2 races. Race 2 saw Hauger on pole from Chauvet, with the Prema boys headed by Rasmussen next. For the second race in a row, Chauvet got a bad start, this time getting jumped by all 3 Premas. Coming out of turn 2, Rasmussen also got past Hauger, while the fight between Leclerc and Petkov saw Jean-Luc on the gravel trap, dropping him down to 9th. The 2 VAR cars weren't done either, with Hauger pushing Rasmussen hard and Chauvet managing to get Leclerc for 3rd. Petkov spent 18 minutes stuck in 8th place behind a fiercely battling Nannini and Gillian Henrion before eventually he managed to battle his way up to 6th, but the fighting had left him 12 seconds behind 5th place Pasma. However, on the last lap, Pasma did him a massive favour getting Leclerc for 4th and reducing the damage that Petkov would have taken in the title fight. Rasmussen won the race, having barely had more than half a second ahead of Hauger for the entire race, but 2 wins had massively improved his position in 3rd in the championship. Race 3 saw Hauger on pole again in what had been an impressive outing for him. Pierre-Louis Chauvet again 2nd, with Petkov in 3rd, and only 1 point separating him and Leclerc in the championship. Off the line, Chauvet got a good start and took the lead. Hauger managed to hold 2nd from Petkov, but a poor start from Rasmussen saw him down to 6th, and he settled down for a frustrating time behind Nannini. On lap 13, the pressure finally told and Nannini went wide, allowing Rasmussen past. Catching Leclerc, he then went wheel-to-wheel with him, but had to take avoiding action as the rear of Leclerc's Prema tried to break loose, all of which allowed Nannini to close back on him. But Rasmussen managed to hold 5th at the line. Ahead, victory went to a joyful Pierre-Louis Chauvet, who, despite looking like the main challenge to the Prema dominance this season at times, hadn't actually had a race win up to this point. Hauger finished 2nd, meaning he'd managed to take 3 podiums in 3 races for Van Amersfoort Racing, while wearing his high-tech FIA F3 racing overalls. Petkov finished 3rd with Leclerc 4th, meaning that he'd have a 4-point lead over the Monegasque going into the next round. For Rasmussen, a further 15 points behind. Patrick Pasma's stunning weekend at the previous round meant he was still 4th from Pierre-Louis Chauvet, who was a full 94 points ahead of 6th place Lapalainen. Prema also secured the team's championship by having more points than all the other teams combined. This is not my surprised face. In sports car news, the big event was the final race of the season for the European Le Mans Series at Portimao. The LMP2 title had already been won by the 22 United Autosport entry, but there was still a spot at Le Mans available for the team that finished in 2nd in the championship, as well as the LMP3 and GTE titles to be decided. In prime position for 2nd in LMP2 was the other United Autosport car, number 32, which had taken pole in the hands of Jock van Houten. Wallowin made a decent start, but Roman Rusinov, starting in the number 26G drive from 6th place, had been watching Kimi Räikkönen tapes from when F1 had been there the previous week, and somehow came out of turn 1 in the lead. The number 22, by contrast, had a poor start and dropped to 13th place. In GTE, the GMW Ferrari outbraked itself to end up stuck in a gravel trap, which by the time it got racing again, it was 5 laps down. 14 minutes in, and Rusinoff ran wide, allowing Will Owen to retake the lead. After the initial pit stops had happened, the 22 United Autosport had fought its way back up to 4th, with Decane Engineering in 3rd, but they were both on slightly different strategies to the leaders, having pitted earlier under a full course yellow. When they had to pit again, they found themselves back in 7th and 8th, but there was still nearly 3 hours left and lots could happen. After the pit stop, the 26G drive in the hands of Mikkel Jensen was on fire and took the lead back. With 2 hours and 35 minutes remaining, pit stops came round for the leaders Yen, and Alex Brundle got into the 32. Another full course yellow came out with 2 hours and 27 minutes remaining after the 88 Ferrari had got onto the marbles trying to allow faster prototypes past and understeered off into the gravel at the last corner, during which time the top 3 in GTE all jumped into the pits. When it all shook out, there was some anxiety for Zak Brown's United Autosport team in the garage as the 22 and 32 started fighting for second with less than a second between them. The 22 already having won the title, they were basically racing for fun, but obviously their races they still wanted to win. With 1 hour 28 minutes of the race left, a safety car had to be called after a tyre exploded on the GT class leading Ferrari number 60, shredding itself in the rear quarter, leaving debris over the track. This meant the GTE Championship leading Kessel Ferrari was now in second, with a second place Proton Competition Porsche in third. And if the Porsche could win, it could take the GTE title. At the restart, the United Autosport cars were still at it, with Alex Brundle in the 32 and Felipe Albuquerque in the 22 fighting hard. It was also going well for United Autosport and LMP3, with their number 2 car leading the class, although because of the way pit stops worked in that category, they'd need to pit for longer than the second place car when they came in, and the safety car had damaged the time advantage that they'd enjoyed on track. In LMP2, Jos Van Houten jumped back into the 32, hoping to repeat the pace he'd had in pole position. But when G-Drive stopped, they deployed their own Dutchman, Van Houten's WEC teammate at Team Racing Netherlands, Nick de Vries, who set about setting fastest laps and securing the team's place at the front of the field. In LMP3, as expected, the time lost in the pits brought the number 2 United Autosport out in second, but they had greater pace than the real Team Racing number 8 that was leading the class. And it was heating up in GTE as well in the last hour. Proton Porsche had taken the lead from the Kessel Ferrari in second, and it would have meant that they'd have been on the same number of points in the championship with the same number of wins, but Proton would get the title as they'd won first. In the closing stages, Decane Engineering got the jump on both United Autosport cars off the pit stop to take second, but they could do nothing about G-Drive and Nick de Vries, who crossed the line a full 30 seconds ahead. The 22 United Autosport finished third, with the 32 struggling on tyres, finishing fourth. In the championship, the number 32 United Autosport car took second, making it 2 United cars going to Le Mans, and this would become 3 when the number 2 car won the LMP3 class and also secured an entry. In GTE, the Proton Porsche would win, securing the championship, and both they and the Kessel Ferrari would get Le Mans entries for next year. So, congratulations to a lot of teams and drivers following this weekend. In F1, congratulations to Mercedes for securing their 7th Constructors' title in a row. It's kind of unbelievably difficult to sustain that level of performance for that long through multiple rule changes, so it's going to be a difficult achievement to ever beat, I think. Congratulations to FEE and Euroformula Open for a pretty dominant season, and congratulations to all the race winners in Formula Renault and Formula Regional, and finally to Zak's team, United Autosport, for securing their 3 Le Mans entries. Phew, that was a busy weekend. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this week's rundown, and maybe you found out about some series you might not otherwise have watched. But anyway, until next time, thank you for watching.